All right, everybody. We are set up and ready to go here. It looks like, as Data Dan predicted, the Proof Moonbirds cohort of our community are preoccupied this morning. So hopefully they jump in if their event wraps up here. But I think we should just forge on and give our update. We'll get this recorded. Hopefully that technology is working, and we'll get it posted for those that missed the live update. But just to kick this all off for anybody that happens to be new to our town halls, first of all, I'm going to stream today at a couple points in the town hall. So if you actually are new to Discord too, you can go to the you have to click on the Mesa voice channel, and then you'll see that there's a live stream happening. You click on that, you can see my screen. I'll just be sharing the agenda live. You can open that up in your own browser, but then later we're going to be showing the pilot program projects, which should be really cool. So yeah, for those of you that are new to our town hall, it's always nice just to start with what the heck is Tableland. And so yeah, Tableland is a pretty cool project. It's grounded in a protocol. And so the Tableland protocol is built to deliver a Web3 native database to currently Ethereum, Polygon, and Optimism, though some new chains are coming in the near future. We're currently running on 3 mainnets and 3 testnets. So each of those 3 networks, we have one of their testnets covered. And we have a network of validators. Currently, we run 1 validator, and we're onboarding further 8, I think, right now. Last week and this week, we've been onboarding actually those validators. You can check them out in Node Operators, where they'll be collaborating with us over the next few weeks to iron out any of the kinks in the validator and get it set up. But that's really going to be the first step towards a permissionless database network that is Web3 native. So you can actually use this database from smart contracts on those networks I mentioned. We also launched an NFT in July called Rigs. And for us, this is a really keystone piece of the protocol and the project. And it's itself is grounded in amazing art. Plus, it's built on the Tableland protocol. And we have some cool updates coming this quarter and next for making that NFT really come to life. And I think there's a lot of people that join our town hall that are NFT holders and are just excited for where this goes together. You know, these 2 projects go together, the NFT and the protocol. A bit of how we work, I'll talk about it a bit later, but we just opened up some new channels so that you can get a better inside look into how we work. I think our company is really interesting, and we're leveraging a lot of neat ideas and how organizations can collaborate and build. But the big thing to understand right away is that we run on seasons. So if you're part of any other DAOs or NFT communities, you might be familiar with this term. But seasons for us run around 12 weeks, give or take, depending on timing. And we give every season a new version number, just like software. And so we're currently in season 4. And so if you look at this town hall, it's 4.2.2. And so that's the current version. So it's season 4 and then milestone 2 and checkpoint 2. And so that means we have a milestone every 6 weeks and a checkpoint every 2. We've been working to align these town halls with the milestones. So every time that milestone number changes, we should have a new town hall come in, and we'll update you everything that's happened in the 6 weeks since. And that's what today is. So the agenda for today is we're going to go over different updates to the technology and the NFT, and then the ecosystem, which has a ton of updates and new opportunities that we want to share with you all. And then at the end, as always, we're going to do a Q&A. Actually, there's a note that's incorrect here. Because we're moved over to a voice channel instead of the Mesa stage channel that we've used in previous town halls, we're not going to do hand raising today. So instead, just go ahead and ask your questions either in the voice channel dedicated chat or just in general, and we'll read those out and get them answered on air. And I mentioned already, the second half of this is going to be dedicated to the pilot program, which we're going to hear a bunch more about. But this was a really awesome first run of this kind of experimental format for building with different developers in a more collaborative way. And we think it was really valuable. And we're just going to keep running those. And we have a new one coming, and we're going to double down the effort there. And so we'll show you what those teams built this past season and explain a bit about where we're going with it. So for updates, let's jump right in. And there's a few different sections here. So we're going to go through product, the rigs NFT, the ecosystem, and part of the ecosystem, we'll talk about the pilot program. I'm going to call up on the stage here a few of my collaborators to talk about some of these different points. So why don't we jump right in and talk about our new functionality on a few test nets. And for that, I'll tap Carson.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Everybody can hear me? Hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So we got a couple of things. And also just to note that I promised a few people in general that we would talk a little bit about how events and transactions work on Tableland. And so if you're one of those people that was looking forward to that, then make sure you listen to Ignacio talk a little bit about our multi-event support stuff. Anyway, just before we get to that, so Testnet, so Tableland is in testnet phase right now, which means that we're iterating quickly and there's lots of new features landing pretty much every day. And we've got a fairly stable testnet that will eventually be migrated over to mainnet when that time comes. But that doesn't mean that you can't interact with EVM or parent chain mainnets already. So in fact, we've actually deployed the Tableland contract, the on-chain component, to several new mainnet chains, including Ethereum mainnet, Polygon mainnet, and Optimism mainnet. So that means that you can actually build sort of like production apps running on, real mainnet NFTs or assets or games, and still leverage the Tableland testnet. And then the Tableland team, for those big projects that are doing that sort of thing, you can work with the Tableland team to make sure that any of those tables that you're relying on for your mainnet app or game could potentially be migrated over later on. So that's kind of a pretty nice feature, and we wanted to highlight that as something that you can actually leverage right now. And we even have some teams that are already taking advantage of this. You can check out the docs.tableland.xyz/deployed contracts to take a look at all of the contracts that we have deployed, what their addresses are, and where they're deployed, and all that good stuff. And it lists them by chain ID. And if you go there, you can see we're actually already supporting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different chains. So chances are, if you're interacting with Tableland, we're probably supporting the chain that you want to interact with. So that's a pretty nice update, and we have some tweets and blog posts that reflect some of these new chains that we're supporting. And so now I'm going to tag Ignacio to talk about arguably a pretty rad newish feature that some folks ran into early on in some testing, and now is sort of opening up all sorts of pretty awesome use cases and workflows. So take it away, Ignacio.
Thanks. Can you hear me correctly?
Yep.
Cool. Hey all. I wanted to explain a bit some protocol change that we did some weeks ago. But since it can get pretty technical quite fast, I think it's worth doing a refresher on the context. So as probably many of you know, the way that you usually use any blockchain out there, being Ethereum or any other one, is through transactions. So whenever you want to do something in the blockchain, you send a transaction. So like a transaction is kind of the API that you use. So the way that you usually have to think about using transactions in a blockchain is that sending a transaction is basically asking the chain to perform some action. This action can be sending some tokens to a wallet address or calling a method in a smart contract, right? So a pretty central design choice for transactions is kind of baked in the name, which is that whenever you do a change in a transaction, all the changes happen, all the side effects of executing a transaction happens or none. So that is really important because it's allows you to kind of safely change the state of whatever thing you are doing. So to avoid having such an abstract explanation, if you think about it in NFTs, let's say that we want to exchange one NFT for another between you and me. So we would usually expect that whenever we do that in the chain, I will give you my NFT and I will get yours at the same time, and there's no way of having any partial execution because that would be pretty bad. So how this relates to Tableland? The way that Tableland works, also a quick refresher, is that let's say you want to mint a table, you would usually create a transaction that calls the create table method in a registry smart contract, and that will create an event that will signal the validators to perform that action, in this case, created a table. The same happens with sending write queries. You will send a transaction to a registry smart contract calling the run SQL method, and that will trigger an event of run this write query statement. So if you think about some useful example, let's say that you want to create a table, which is an allow list for some NFT, future minting or similar, and you want to only allow a set of wallet addresses to mint this future NFT. So you can think about of this like doing it in 3 steps. You have to mint a table, you have to insert whatever rows with these wallet addresses that you want to allow. Maybe you want, as a final step, to make this table immutable. So you will change ownership to the 0 address and be sure that the ACL won't allow anyone later to do any changes. So there are like 2 ways to do this. We have the kind of simple / naive way, which is sending one transaction for minting the table, then sending one transaction with all these insert statements with all the wallet addresses, and then send a third transaction to do the ACL work to make it immutable. As you might expect, this has some like downsides in the sense that if any of these 3 transactions fail and you don't handle this correctly, you can get some kind of corrupted state, because let's say that you minted the table and the insert failed and you sent the ACL change without checking that, you will have an immutable empty table. That's kind of one way that things can go wrong. The other thing is, after you made the table, maybe someone already inserted some data without you to know before you make that immutable. So you have to take care of all these border cases, which is pretty annoying and pretty, yeah, it's pretty tricky. So that's kind of one way. The other way that now is possible is that you can, in a single transaction, in a single EVM transaction, and generate all these 3 events. So you will get the result of knowing that all these things will succeed or fail. So that is pretty useful because you don't have to worry about all these cases of maybe the table was minted and the insert failed, or the table was minted, the data was inserted, but the ACL change failed, or things like that. So you can have more like stronger invariance in your application, because you know that some potential states won't ever be possible. So for example, maybe other ways that this can be useful, you can maybe create 3 tables in the same transaction, so we know that all of them will exist or none of them, if you need more than 1 table for your application. Or even more interesting, you could insert data in more than 1 table in the same AVM transaction. So that's probably really useful for cases in which whatever you are doing in your application requires to write to more than 1 table. So the way that this new feature works is simply that before the change, like each EVM transaction can only generate 1 kind of event. But now we can generate whatever set of events. The way that they are executed is exactly the same as EVM chains work, or any blockchain works, in the sense that everything that happened in that transaction will affect the state in Tableland, or it will fail completely. So it has this atomic nature. So the way that you can really leverage feature today is by creating a contract. You can create your own contract. So you send the transaction to this contract, and this contract can call multiple times all the methods in the registry smart contract. So let's say that you want to create 3 tables. You can create a contract that has a method named mint 3 tables. And in that method, you can call the registry smart contract via an internal transaction. And that will simply generate these 3 events of minting a table. In the future, we are planning to improve the methods of the registry smart contract. So you will have the chance of calling these new methods to really perform more than 1 action. This is a bit to simplify this requirement of you having to create a contract to really generate more than 1 event, because all the methods in the contract, in the registry smart contract, only generate 1 event. So you can only call create table or run SQL or set controller or things like that, which are a single event. But in the future, yeah, we are planning to create new methods, so you can have a way to express to the registry smart contract directly that you want to create a table and insert data and do something else. I've also, if you are interested in to know more about the details of this, I wrote an article that is live in our documentation, which explains how you should think about execution of transactions in Tableland. Hopefully you won't get any surprise, because that's the idea. The idea that you should think about Tableland execution is exactly the same as you think about EVM execution. So there shouldn't be any kind of surprise, but I think it's important to be clear, and I will invite anyone to read that article. And if you find anything that is confusing, just ping me or let me know, and I can improve on that. So I think that's a fair summary.
Awesome, thanks for that. Really good overview. And I pulled up the article here. It's linked in our agenda today as well. So next up, our docs sometimes have a funny time rendering people's names. So undefined today is Alan. He's going to share with you a bit about our tables NFT.
So if you hop on the marketplaces, you can actually take a look at if you own a table, you'll be actually able to see it, kind of just some summary details about that table. So right now, if you go to Testnet's OpenSea and you look up the table and tables collection, you'll get to see a gorgeous view of all the tables that folks are creating. And it gives you some, some good details. So like the columns and their types, the name. Another cool aspect of this is as you scroll down, you can kind of get an idea of how active a table is just by kind of the color that it is. So if it's kind of a deep purple, it's maybe got a few rows or a few cells. But as you look, if you see one that's like a little pinker, a little brighter, those are ones that have got a lot of activity. So I'm scrolling down here and I can see one. It's a table called something like banned books, it looks like, but it's really bright, and so you can tell that's got a pretty fair amount of data on there. So yeah, it's just something. So if you own a table, you can see it. Other folks can see it, and it's up there in the marketplace. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. And so those are actually populating on which networks are we supporting in the marketplace? Or I mean, I guess they're kind of everywhere, but which marketplaces can people look at?
I know OpenSea, looks rare, and then it should be for whatever chains that we're supporting.
Oh yeah, I meant like I guess you could see Ethereum mainnet, Polygon mainnet,
right.
Polygon testnet. Gorley doesn't show up, right? There's no testnet support for Gorley in the marketplace. Maybe there's a marketplace we haven't checked yet. And then what's the name of the marketplace in Optimism? I can't ever recall.
Okay. Me neither.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so people can play with that. Actually, I realized there's something missing from our agenda. I'll have Brian touch on table raisings too, which links into that. But okay, let's jump forward to Carson. Thanks, Alan.
Me again. Yeah, so actually Andrew mentioned this already before in his introduction, but we have begun onboarding our Tableland validators. So new members of the Tableland network who will be doing the hard work of materializing the table views for our tables. So this is pretty cool. We're extremely excited about this. Marla and I are kicking off this week. In fact, we're kicking off in earnest with so actually, if you're a validator and you've joined our program, expect some communications from Marla and I later today. For those that just wanted to know what the heck is going on, you can jump into the node operators channel in our Discord, and that's going to be a place where node operators, that's the people running the validators, can interact with the core team here, ask questions, troubleshoot, etc. But it's also a place where people wandering around the Tablelands can see what's up and follow along and get updates on progress and all that stuff. And for those who are like, why do I care about this stuff? The validator onboarding program is kind of a critical step in Tableland becoming a fully decentralized network that supports tables. So the more validators that we onboard and the more testing that we do at this early testnet phase of working out the kinks, making sure it's easy to run validators, making sure state is syncing across all those validators, all that good stuff. The more we can do that now, the more resilient and robust our network will be as we move towards mainnet and beyond. So this is a pretty critical step, and we're being extremely careful about who we're bringing in initially, not so much because we're worried about, it's going to be a permissionless network, so that's fine, but more about, are we bringing on partners that can really help us test and deploy and push things forward. So if that's you and you haven't gotten in touch, do get in touch. If that's you and you've already gotten in touch, expect some more communication from us shortly. And yeah, we're really excited. So just follow along on the Node Operators channel, and you'll probably see quite a lot of updates on this front in the coming weeks and months.
Super, thank you. And back to undefined.
Yeah, so this is something I'm pretty excited to get out there. So I was pretty excited about the NFT views on the marketplace, but I'm also really, really excited about this. which is that our dashboard, so we're calling for beta testers for our dashboard. So our dashboard is something which will allow you to, without having to, necessarily work with the SDK or the CLI, be able to create tables and update tables using an interface, which is, for me, it's really exciting. Oh, it's dash.tableland.xyz. It should be. Yeah, and so it'll be at dash.tableland.xyz if you want to take a look. If you are interested in being a beta tester, this is something where it is still in beta. And we want to make sure you give us feedback so we can give you the features that you want. And kind of one of the reasons we're kind of getting it out there without making it, the most absolutely polished and gorgeous thing is because we want to make sure what we're building is what you actually need. And so that's why feedback, hop in the dev chat if you have questions, if you're like, hey, this doesn't make sense. We're really excited.
Hey, Andrew, you have .com at the end of the URL, not .xyz. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, you can go in there, you can connect your wallet through Wallet Connect. And then you've got this create table view, which is, it's not gorgeous, but it works. And you can connect to any of the networks which we support. I do, by default, make it a little bit harder to switch to mainnets just for now. But there's actually a toggle in the settings menu that'll let you show mainnets. So if you're really committed to using our dashboard to commit to mainnets right now, you can do that. But just, it's not going to be quite as easy just as we're kind of getting this thing off the ground and making sure we've got all those, all the, little issues worked out. So we're giving you the best experience. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, does anybody on the stage have any questions or things that you'd want kind of like called out? Or just, let us know.
Sweet. Thanks, Alan. Okay, so next up, we got rigs. So that's going to be me today. The normal DRI that's our terminology, directly responsible individual for the garage development is out today. So I'm just going to step in. If you haven't seen it yet, first of all, in our last town hall, we published a roadmap as part of the agenda. We've moved that over to the roadmap section of the docs. So you can kind of track that here. I pulled it out. So it's just, you can go straight to the Tableland rigs roadmap. And the first thing is, Aaron, who you just heard fixing my URL, he published a really cool explainer on how the rigs layers were built on Tableland tables and how the composability worked. And so you can find that here, which is part of the new developer-focused blog. And we'll talk about that a bit later too. But the next thing up is actually the garage mechanics and the smart contract, as well as the garage web app, which will allow you to take your rig out of the garage and start accumulating time out of the garage, which is something we kind of unpacked in more detail in the last town hall. And you can find that on YouTube. And it's a bit in some of the earlier blog posts as well. But that's just progressing. We're not going to deliver that for another, I believe it's 3 to 4 weeks in our roadmap, in our internal kind of more detailed roadmap for planning. But Sander can kind of update you on that all async probably over the next week or two, and maybe pull some of you in for early feedback. And then the next big thing on rigs is we had a really cool interview with Oddfellows, the designers behind the rigs NFT. And we talked about kind of the art, the creation, the lore, the collaboration, how, their journey into Web3 and kind of where they're going and where we're going together. That's posted on YouTube now, and definitely recommend checking that out. And I think that URL is actually wrong too. And so, yeah, that's the main thing for rigs. However, there is one thing that I wanted to mention, which is we have a, besides the flight time mechanic from the garage coming up, we do have an interesting event coming up, and we're not ready to talk fully about it, but maybe Brian or Carson, if one of you want to jump on and tell anything that you're ready to tell about what's going on there.
Do it, Brian, if you're there. If not, I'll step in.
Can't hear you, Brian, if you're talking.
He's not making any sound. Yeah, okay, so we have a whole half day planned for rigs specific stuff. And that's going to include like interactions with rig holders and planning and community engagement and all sorts of fun stuff around that. And then we've also got planned a sort of like sneaky rigs only component where there'll be a chance for like rigs holders to get a little bit more direct interaction with the core team and to sort of like flex their rigs a bit and help make some decisions around the future of rigs and planning and the whole ecosystem. So the detail, I don't want to leak any details because one is like in keeping it kind of quiet, but the whole half day is going to be dedicated to rigs stuff. Rigs everything for half a day.
What's the like rough timeline for people to have in their minds?
In terms of when this is going to happen?
Yeah.
We actually have real dates, but October is that's when you want to start. Basically just block off all of October to be ready to talk about rig stuff.
October is rigs month. Exactly.
October 17th is the current. So now don't hold us to that because we'll do a little bit of making sure schedules line up and blah blah blah. But it looks like it's going to be October 17th. But honestly, you might as well just block off the whole month. Just get stoked.
Cool. When are you planning to? What's kind of the timeline to publish greater detail on that?
Well, we're going to be publishing the actual like proposal to the rest of the core team very shortly. Like, I don't know, maybe later today. So that needs to go through a review to make sure we're not doing anything too crazy. And then I think we'll be able to announce the actual official dates pretty soon. But between now and the next town hall, for sure, we'll have all that stuff ready to go.
Awesome. Let me check one thing here for Brian.
He's got some audio issues, it looks like. The other person working on the convergence stuff is 80 Steele, who's out right now as well. So he and Brian and I have been spending a lot of time trying to come up with a pretty great schedule that is going to be kind of fun and is going to get people stoked for what's coming. Let's see, what else can I talk about?
No, it's okay. We're gonna move on here. I'm just trying real quick to see. Give it one more try, Brian. Yeah, can't hear Brian. Okay. Well, Brian, if you figure it out, let me know. Otherwise, I'll blast forward. I was actually going to call on you for one last rig section, which is to talk about the table raisings. So I'll just step in and let folks know that Brian's been running these really cool events, and I think a few of you on the call today have actually gone through this, and it links together different areas that we've just been talking about. And so what a table raising is it's about a 30-minute call where Brian will walk you through from end to end how to use the Tableland protocol. And it's been really cool because it's non-technical, though you're going through the technical steps. So you're gonna use your wallet, you're gonna connect to our smart contract, you're gonna actually write SQL, you're gonna create a table, you're actually gonna write SQL to insert and update data in that table. And at the end of it all, you're actually gonna get one of those table NFTs that Alan was showing you on the on OpenSea. You do this all in Polygon, so it will be a mainnet NFT for the table that you create as part of the raising. And so far they've been really pretty successful. I think everybody's made it through, except for we had a couple hiccups on the we use Polygon Scan for connecting to the smart contract during the event, and there's been some technical issues with that. But that aside, I think everybody has successfully been able to mint a table and get through that. And that's been really fun to watch and helping to bring, oh, and I forgot to mention that right now we're running that exclusively for rig owners. And so we do plan on in the future to open that up to anybody that's non-technical, that wants to learn how this thing works. But we see it as a really valuable way to, one, get you rig owners also involved in the protocol and understanding how this thing works. And also in the future, as we start connecting these things to your sort of reputation in the system, it'll be really cool to have you also have used the protocol being a rig owner. So if you want to take part in that and you want to, if you want to raise a table, there's an event up in if you go to the top of the Discord left panel, there's 10 events. One of them down in about a week is the next raise. And Brian's going to be running that again. Yeah, and super lightweight. All you have to do is come with a wallet ready, and he'll walk you through all the rest of the steps in a pretty short amount of time. So, and then I think what's really fun there is hopefully that all just kind of elevates your understanding of what this protocol does and helps you go talk about it in other projects and get people excited with us. And yeah, I think we're always looking for help on how to spread the word about what's cool about rigs, what's cool about the protocol, how are they connecting. And I think this kind of paints a really cool picture to start understanding that. So get involved there.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to say one more thing. So that tentatively, depending on how the test for the beta testers go, I think we were planning on at the next table raising, using the dashboard to actually do the table raising. So it'll make it a little bit easier. So Brian and I are still working that out, but that's the tentative plan for the next one, which is next Wednesday, I think. Yeah, when it's Wednesday. So yeah, we're excited about that.
Awesome. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with Brian not being able to speak, but I might have figured it out this time.
It's the role.
Okay. Looks like I did not figure it out, so I'm going to continue forward with ecosystem updates. Okay, so first piece is Brian, so I'll just jump in and speak over this. So these are all links, actually. If you take a look at our roadmap here, or sorry, our agenda here, except for this first one, which I'll fix after the call. But we've had some really fun interviews on Twitter Spaces lately. So if you've missed those, we've posted them all on YouTube now. We had one just last Friday with all the pilot program developer track teams. So that was the 5 teams that we're going to actually see some product demos later today. And that interview is really fun. We just talked about, Tableland, Web3, protocol choices, friction in the ecosystem, things like that. It was really awesome. And then we had 2 other really fun conversations. One with Dap House about building in virtual worlds. Right now they're building some game mechanics in Decentraland using Tableland. They took part in the partner track of the pilot program. And so we talk a bit about their output and their vision. Similarly, we talked to Surreal, who are building metaverse experiences, and they're focused a lot right now on collectibles and wearables and Web3 native ownable things integrated into their metaverse vision. And So we talked about all that, which is really great. Carson, who you've heard from today, he had a fun interview with Midnight Labs. Thanks to Midnight Labs for hosting that. We grabbed a copy of it and made it available to all of you. You can find a link there. And then I gave a talk at NFT NYC that finally came out. And I talk a bit about NFTs as ownership building blocks and how we can think of what are the next types of ownership that we're going to expose to developers and how that sort of weaves into the Tableland vision. And that's pretty short and sweet. So check that out. It's on YouTube now. Okay, that's a bit of the recent events. Let's go talk about some ongoing events. We just told you sneak peek of the rigs one, but we do also have some developer ones, which if Dan wants to take it away.
Yeah, sounds good. And by the way, I made a couple changes to the docs site. So the undefined issue is temporarily resolved, and then those links should now be more clearly stated. So in case anyone's following along, those changes should be live. But anyways, as far as current events going on, we just kicked off 123 Web3, a joint Morales and Filecoin hackathon. So here we have a little bit larger prizes than we typically do. So a couple grand prizes of $3,500 for that bounty, and then runner-ups making $1,500 each. And basically this, as well as the ETH Global, ETH Online hackathon, is sort of like a similar type of way in which we're structuring it. We're just looking for novel, innovative use cases at Tableland. And this can stem across various verticals, at least for the Morales hackathon. It's a little bit more pointed in terms of what people are building. So this is anything from like metaverses, gaming, developer tooling, even potentially cloning Web 2, but maybe not the best use case at Tableland. Just try to get creative is the end goal, and looking forward to seeing what everyone's building, at least for that one. And then in addition to that, the ETH Online one, which a similar type of prize structure, just a little bit smaller in nature, 5K total, with $3,500 for a grand prize, runner-up, and a pool prize, or $3,500 for a pool prize, sorry, and then grand prize and runner-up, similar type of structure as that one before. So looking forward to speaking with everyone, dive into those different Discords, or also I'm always hosting developer office hours on Wednesdays and Thursdays in the Tableland Discord. So if you have any questions as you get started with these hackathons, feel free to jump in.
Awesome, thanks. I'm gonna just share a bit about some of the new channels we opened up, but also in the Discord updates part, Dan, do you wanna share some hints of what you're tinkering away on bot side of things?
Definitely. So I think something that's pretty great about Tableland is we have this gateway where we can write queries, basically write a query and include it into something like the query endpoint. But at the end of the day, people that are interacting with Tableland are typically developers that are maybe deploying some code locally or something, maybe building a Node app or using smart contracts, etc. And what we want to do is actually enable some of that sort of technical type of feedback within the Discord itself. So a simple example is we have a prototype working. It's not released yet, but basically allows you to make a read query with just like a Discord bot / command. So command allows you to say, hey, select all from this table. The bot does some work, and then it spits back out one of the results and then a link to that gateway. And there's a lot else that we can do with this just to even make it more beneficial for people that are just trying to get started with SQL, or for any developer in the ecosystem just trying to play around with the tool itself and do some queries in real time. And there's plenty of also other things that we're going to build on top of that, potentially even open source this once it's fully baked out, but definitely something to look out for in the near future.
Sick, thanks. Yeah, and I think that's, pretty interesting for developers, getting this more like SQL-y up in our Discord, which will be fun. And then some of the things that you were thinking around rigs, I think could be cool too. And helping rigs owners explore stuff and share stuff right from Discord. That'll be really fun. So a couple more Discord updates. One is that we felt like it was time to open up a lot more of the work that we were doing day to day. You know, being a very technical team, we push a lot of things out, and it doesn't always make it into Discord chats. So we try to remedy that by actually moving a few new streams to a category called GitHub. And so you can check that out now and just follow kind of our day-to-day development on different pieces. And this also will link into the rigs roadmap because in the rigs roadmap, we have plans to open source that whole project, which will then feed into here. So you can actually start following live updates to the rigs project. And so hopefully you'll enjoy that. The other big update is that as a team, we operate internally as guilds. And we do a lot of conversation that hasn't been in the general channel organizing as those teams. And this links into what I was talking about with season versions and those milestones and checkpoints. We do a lot of work to coordinate at those points, and we wanted to open that up. We've had it in our vision to open that up since like many months ago. And we finally did it yesterday or the day before. So you can now find this category called guilds. And those are read-only to the public. And so you'll be able to see our teams chatting in there. If you have any questions about stuff, you can always just grab a link to a message and comment in general or in dev chat about things that we're talking about. Ask us questions there. But just keep the conversations focused on with collaborators. Those are read-only. But hopefully you enjoy that and kind of seeing our team work and some of our focus there. And then we're just going to keep pushing to open up more and more stuff here in Discord and making it a real hub of our progress and activity. So that's it for Discord updates. Back to you, Dan. I should have just grouped these all together, but how about the dev blog?
Yeah, so we have a dev.tableland.xyz blog meant for more like technical oriented content. So you'll see a few of them here. Up at the top was our first one that sort of grouped everything together. It was an engineering blog, which we'll be posting every 6 weeks. So as Andrew alluded to, we operate in these checkpoint milestone type of frequency. So every 6 weeks, we're going to push out an engineering blog that basically summarizes all the work that has happened, as well as in the process, you'll notice a number of different articles that we published. One was also mentioned earlier on exploring the rigs tables, but then some other ones have also been published as part of this launch of the Tableland technical blog. So keep an eye out for sure every 6 weeks, this engineering blog summarizing all the release and how to use these new features, as well as intermittent articles that are published, just talking about really anything Tableland, from rigs to making queries to why even use Tableland in the first place. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what else we put out there. And if you have any ideas, as always, let us know. If you're looking for a particular tutorial or article, feel free to call us out in dev chat for any gaps and things that we can add to the blog itself. And I suppose next,
you again.
So rounding up today, we're gonna just walk through, at least before we do any sort of Q&A, we're gonna walk through just the pilot program. So it was a great 7 weeks. We had some awesome projects that built, some pretty cool things, and hopefully everyone that was a rigs holder was able to vote in that snapshot that ended yesterday. And if you've been paying any attention, we had two basically snapshot votes where the winner, the top two teams from each of those votes were awarded additional bounties. And it just so happened that it was the same two teams across both of those snapshots. So congrats to MetaBadge and Chain Runners Extensions for winning both of those bounties, including the one that just ended yesterday. And overall, I think Andrew's going to walk through some of these project demos in a minute here. And again, if you haven't had a chance to check them out, pay attention here, or even go off and explore some of the Notion pages and links that detail everything about these projects, what they did, how they architected things. And if you are interested in participating in our pilot program too, it's coming up here shortly in the next, I think, month or two, but we're opening up applications tomorrow. So check out that link. And really the idea is if you have anything you've built with Tableland, you want to continue building, such as maybe you have a hackathon, you participated in a hackathon, use Tableland in some other realm, like Mexico, for example. If you want to continue building, apply. Or if you have ideas, scope them out. Let's try to work together and collaborate and see what else we can build for Tableland, and really looking forward to this next wave of the pilot program. So without further ado, I'll hand it back to you, Andrew.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts I had on my mind. Just one, for people to understand a little bit of our motivation there. It's really to pilot program is all about raising the signal to noise ratio in an early project. So we give a lot of hands-on help. And I think the reviews were overwhelmingly pretty awesome from teams that went through pilot program. It's just all about help and kind of clearing blockers for you and letting you work. And it's really lightweight in that way. So hopefully that appeals to a lot of developers. So yeah, apply like Dan said. I also wanted to call out one thing about all the teams that we're about to show some demos from. I'll just run through them really quick because I think it's worth reiterating and making the opportunities available to all of you. And hopefully you click through. If you go through the snapshot proposal link in the agenda today, you can find a table with a link to every project. I definitely recommend going and reading and digging into those. But I wanted to actually walk through each one really quick and just call out some opportunities. So Zettel is actually open for beta testers. It's a deplatform personal information management. It actually, that description actually isn't the best, I recall now, but Snapshot doesn't let you edit existing descriptions. But they actually, you'll see a demo in a second. They actually are allowing people with a rig in their wallet to skip the waiting list. So if you have a rig, I definitely encourage going and trying this out and giving them feedback and be one of the first users of Zettel. MetaBadge likewise is moving really quickly and they are running on multiple chains. We'll see them in the video in a second. If you're a builder or you're a community mod or helping create a community where reputation and things like soulbound badges are interesting and a potential feature for your community, we can get you in touch with Raul and have you testing that. It looks really sweet and straightforward. The non-fungible comments is part of a bigger project called Rebel.fun, which is community management platform, token gated community management platform. Go check that out. Again, if you're a community mod or helping build a community in Web3, it could be a really great tool to get started from day one. And they're moving really quick on building out stuff there. Paper, Rock, Scissors, likewise, is part of a much bigger vision, and that is the Dope Wars DAO and Dope Wars Gaming projects. And so definitely hop over into the Dope Wars Discord and get to know some folks there and play with some of the things that they're building. And then lastly is the Chain Runners extension collection. I think many of you who are building things in our Discord are familiar now with Data Dan, and he's been really awesome. We actually brought him in as a community mod for us, and he's been building out things like the Rigs Explorer. He was just sharing some links with ideas of what to do next there. But the Chain Runners extension is totally different, and you'll see his demo for that in a moment. But he actually mentioned in the Twitter interview last Friday that he's planning to open source that so people can start deploying it to new collections. So again, if you are owner of a collection where you think some of the features that he's going to show you in a second could be cool, definitely get in touch with him and push him in that direction, because I think it's a very cool project. So without further
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Boyle. I work for Rebel, and I'm excited to share the progress we've made on our Tableland pilot program project, Non-Fungible Comments. Our goal was to create a decentralized and open discussion system for NFTs, one where any member, anybody who's holding a token of a given NFT collection, could leave comments on other NFTs within that collection. We wanted comments to be nestable, and we wanted it to be a seamless system that allows people to interact with NFT collections in the same way that they would interact with, say, like a comments on a blog comment or a blog entry or on Instagram or social media, where you can just discuss these things in as close to a frictionless way as possible. We wanted to implement some token gating to make it so that only people who are token holders can comment on stuff, and we wanted that token gating to be a little bit more sophisticated than just saying only owners of a collection can comment. We want it to be able to be something a little more like guild offers, where you can create complex rules and say that anybody who holds arbitrary tokens on any chain could comment on stuff. And we had a little bit of trouble running into that, not because of Tableland, but just because blockchains themselves are sort of fundamentally limited in their interoperability and in their ability to communicate with one another. So we had to make some compromises in terms of how that all flows, but ultimately we're pretty excited about those the start that we've gotten here in terms of what the code is capable of and what the future of this will look like as chains mature and as the tooling around this stuff improves. But just to give you a sense of how this works and what it looks like, let's actually go into, we deployed our contract to Optimism, and Oleans here are an NFT collection on Optimism. And so one of Rebel's features is that it makes it easy to track NFT collection activity like mints and sales and transfers and all these things, which is a good entry point to be able to comment on stuff. And so if I click into one of these guys, we get a comment view of this NFT. And so I can go ahead and type into this. This one looks pretty freaky. And I can post the comment, and this goes into the Rebel backend. And I can also reply to this, right? So I can type, if I were a different user, I could say, yeah, it does. And I can post that reply. Now, what we're currently doing on our backend is that we are syncing this up from our Rebel servers to the contract that we posted. What we wanted to avoid was having a situation where every time you post a comment on something like this, you have to go in and sign it with your wallet, as that's a kind of a consumer unfriendly experience. And our goal is to bring more regular people into the sort of crypto ecosystem. So we have fallen back to a kind of allow listed app and website method, where you can register platforms like Rebel with the contract, and it validates that comment writing is coming from a system like that. There are probably better ways to do this in the future, and if you look at our roadmap, we talk a little bit about that in the submission document. But there you'll be able to find links to this contract. You'll be able to see some of the output, and by the time this all goes public, I think we should actually have a demo of Tableland rigs and all of this hooked up. So definitely check that stuff out and follow the links that we provide if you want to get involved in this project and where we go with it in the future. Thank you to Tableland for an amazing program.
What's good, y'all? This is Faces from Dope Wars. We are a NFT gaming ecosystem project, and you can check us out over at dopewars.gg. Click on the Read Me First, and there's a whole bunch of information and videos about the project. What you need to know for the purposes of this video is that we have some assets that you should be aware of, our dope NFTs and our ERC20 token called Paper, our hustlers, and our gear, which are all on-chain gaming characters that we're using to build out a series of games. The first of which is the thing that we worked on for the Tableland pilot project, and that is called Paper, Rock, Scissors. So I'll show you our recap here and go through it. Paper, Rock, Scissors is a blockchain-based game of skill that we're going to deploy to the Optimism network. Currently, the proof of concept exists on the Ethereum test network with verified code at the contract below. You can also check it out on GitHub at this link. That's also open source. You can see all the code that we use for the project, the contracts and the deployment stuff in Hard Hat. It's all pretty complicated. So if you're just getting up to speed on Solidity, I had to learn all this stuff and I didn't have a really great example to look at. Check this out. It might help you if you're doing a Solidity project too. So what is Paper, Rock, Scissors? It is a proof of concept game that you buy into a round of by sending ETH to the contract. Eventually, we're going to convert that ETH to our ERC20 token called Paper. We're working on that right now with a reliable oracle, which has proven to be a little bit difficult. But right now, you can buy into a round sending ETH. You can select your move, and you wait for another player to join you. Once two players have committed their moves that are salted and stored to the gaming contract, an outcome can be revealed by an additional transaction. When both of the moves are revealed, if there's a winner, they take the pot less a 5% fee. That 5% fee goes back to our DAO. Our project is also an experiment in DAO ecosystem governance on chain. And we use those fees to compensate contributors and run promotions and things of that nature. We're using Tableland to store the outcome of all these games so we can provide an on-chain accessible leaderboard that we can use for upcoming promotions and giveaways. Right now, our current table is called PRS5394. That's going to change over time because we're working out some of the deployment stuff. And I think eventually we're going to have a proxy contract that deploys one table and then grants write access to other contracts that are upgraded. But that's a little bit complicated for me. I'm a Solidity beginner, and I wanted to just work on the game state and the Tableland integration, make sure I really got that right with the time I had to devote to the pilot program. So originally when I was kicking this off, I wanted to structure our Tableland tables like I would do a normal web project, but that really didn't prove feasible for what we were doing, which is all on-chain. Really the blocker there was the inability for Tableland to read data from a Tableland table inside of a smart contract. You can read the data from a table obviously outside of a smart contract through the awesome SDK and the JavaScript stuff that the Tableland team has provided, but we needed all this stuff on-chain. And so really we scaled this down with the final code, and we're only using one table, which you can see illustrated here, where we are storing a game ID created at timestamp, game entry fee, player 1 and 2 address, and 1 and 2 moves, clear text, and then the winner address. And with this, we'll be able to show what games are open to be played on our front end, and we'll be able to show a leaderboard of who's won the most and lost the most, what's the most interesting move or most chosen move, things of that nature. We'll go through the game flow really quickly. What's relevant for the purposes of this demonstration is that when player A starts a game, they do some things, and then we insert that initial Tableland entry into the table. Player B joins, and they do all their stuff, and we update that same Tableland entry with parameters that are passed in from our front end. Once the moves have been revealed, some other stuff happens, and then eventually we update that Tableland entry to show that it's a finalized game. Now, we weren't able to complete the front end for this, but we are going to continue to build it out, working on the front end over the coming weeks and months, and you will be able to see it hosted at dopewars.gg/PRS. Going to be really hype when that comes out. We're working on like a live chat and some other things. And of course, we'll make an announcement when the game is up for testing. We'll do that on our Discord, which you can access through our website, and on our Twitter. And we'll do a final announcement and promotion when the game is live on Optimism. Hope you guys stick with us to the end and check it out. Thanks for listening.
Hello everyone, this is a brief demo of MetaBadge and some of the progress that we've made as part of the Tableland pilot program. As you might recall, MetaBadge is a simple platform that allows anybody to create a soulbound or a non-transferable token. These badges can be used for the purpose of on-chain credibility, reputation, to recognize contribution, or a number of other use cases. If you'd like to learn more about the problem that we're trying to solve or our approach in solving it, I would recommend taking a look at the project brief that we created as part of the Tableland program from a couple weeks ago. Great, so with that, we can get on with the demo. And as part of this demo, let's pretend that we are creating a badge set to recognize some of our key community contributors. So with that, we will call the badge set community contributors. And for the description, we'll say that this recognizes key community contributors such as moderators or beta testers. Awesome. So with the name and description done, we can go on to configuring the badge set. Within the configuration options, the first thing that you can choose is the transfer rules for this badge set. There are 3 options, ranging from the least strict to the most strict. No binding means that a recipient can freely move the badge across wallets. However, we block certain functions so that it's a little bit more difficult to sell these badges on secondaries. It's not impossible, it's just a little bit more difficult. And so that's the first option. The second option is to bind the badge to a different NFT. A good example here is binding a badge to someone's ENS domain. The theory there is that they're unlikely to want to sell their ENS domain, and therefore you have anchored their badge to something else that they care about. The last option is the most strict, and that is known as wallet bound, and that simply means that they cannot move that badge to any other wallet. We'll choose that option for this demo. From there, you can configure the metadata that you want on a per badge basis. So in this section, we'll just be adding the fields. We'll later be able to fill it in. All this metadata is stored on-chain, leveraging Tableland. In this example, the data will be stored on Polygon's Mumbai Testnet. However, when we actually launch this product, you will be able to decide whatever chain you want your metadata living on, as long as it's compatible with Tableland. So let's go ahead and add a couple fields. The first field we'll add is something, let's call it a contributor type, so we can denote exactly what sort of contribution they made. We can add a field for expiration block. Maybe that is a way for us to signify how long this credibility is meant to last for. And lastly, we can have a field for skill level. Maybe we want to show different types of skill level for different contributors. Great. From there, we can choose whether or not we want to have the ability to revoke the badge. In this case, we don't want to, so we're going to leave that blank and move on. The last option is the ability for you to set a claim fee. This is what someone would have to pay in order to claim the badge. We don't want to charge our community anything, so we'll set this to 0. Great. From there, you can go ahead and configure the recipients who you want to be able to earn this badge. So the first thing we'll do is add in a couple wallet addresses. And then from there, you'll notice that the fields that we had set above start to show down here as well, right? So we have contributor type, expiration block, and skill level. So for contributor type, maybe this person was a community moderator, and we can create a fictitious block date as the expiration, and we'll give this person a skill level of 3. This person might have been a beta tester. We'll give them the same expiration block and maybe a skill level of 3 as well. Fantastic. So now we have recipients, and we can move on from there. The next step is the ability to define delegates. Delegates are simply people who you nominate to help you manage this badge set. They will be able to add recipients if you have revocability access. They will be able to revoke recipients and basically do everything that a creator can do except adding delegates. So this is a pretty important role, and you should give it very sparingly, but it's a way for you to add teammates who can help manage this badge set. Lastly, you can go ahead and add an image that visually represents the badge set that you were trying to create. I've already done that, so there's no need to add another one. Great, so that's it. We've finished creating our badge set. It's as simple and easy as that. And from there, we can go ahead and complete and create this badge. The creation is split into 2 steps. The first step is taking all the data and storing it on chain, leveraging Tableland. The second step is to interact with the meta badge contracts and create the NFTs on chain. So we'll start that process. As you can see, the first request here is a request to sign a Tableland transaction. So we'll sign that. And then we will be paying the cost to store this data on chain as part of Tableland. So we'll confirm that. Now, as this completes, we should see a Tableland ID show up in our console. So we'll keep the console open temporarily to see that. To explain a bit further, every badge in MetaBadge gets its own table in Tableland because there's unique sort of attributes for every single badge set. So as you saw here, there was a successful write to the following table on Tableland, and that data is now stored on chain. Great, so from there we can go ahead and sign a request for MetaBadge and pay the gas required to write this on-chain transaction and interact with the MetaBadge contract. Fantastic. So now we have created the badge set that we're trying to create. This is a link that you can copy and share to anyone that you want being able to redeem this badge, and it'll make sure that they meet all the right criteria, and once they do, they can receive that badge, which is an NFT. Thank you so much for watching this demo. We're really excited to have made the progress we have, and we're really excited to be using Tableland. And yes, thanks so much.
Hey everybody, this is DataDan, and in this video I'm going to do a walkthrough of the final outcome of my project Extension Runners that I've been working on during the Tableland pilot program. Before I jump into the demo, I just wanted to give a quick explanation of what Extension Runners is and why I wanted to build it. So Extension Runners is an NFT collection that builds on top of the Chain Runners Genesis and XR collections. Holders of original runners will be able to claim matching tokens in the extension collection. And Extension Runners cannot be sold or traded. They're only a utility token for existing runners. And the way they add utility is that extension runners can be customized. Users can enable and disable individual traits, and that mutability is powered by Tableland. So let's jump into the demo. Everything you see here is running on the Gurley testnet, but the extension collection will be deployed to ETH mainnet since that's where the original runner collections are. And since this is running on a testnet, I'm using a fake chain runner collection here where I can just mint myself any token. So I've minted myself 2 of the favorite runners that I do own, 2124 and 7114, and Flashwreck's amazing Divine Hood XR Skull. And the first thing we can see here is that I've already claimed 1 extension runner and that I have 2 more that I can claim. And since this is a demo, I'm using Testnet ETH, so I'm just going to go ahead and claim both. Users do have the option to claim as many or as few tokens as they want. And now we just have to wait for this transaction to finish. And there we go. So as we can now see that I have 2 new extension runners. And we can also see that since these are rendered using the original pixel art, we got ourselves a really cool version of the XR Skull. So let's take a look at what customizing a runner looks like. If we click into the detail view for a runner, we can toggle traits on and off and preview what it will look like. So let's say that in this example, I want to update my ninja so that he doesn't wear glasses, and I want to disable the yellow background. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then hit save. And as you can see, this requires a transaction to persist the update in Tableland. I've written a custom contract for this update flow that helps guarantee that only the holder can update the traits and that the gas cost for toggling traits is as low as possible. And now that the transaction is finished, we can close the modal and we'll see that the runner has been updated. And I can also go ahead and refresh the page just to help prove that it is persistent. And that's what the entire flow looks like when you claim and customize extension runners. So what happens if you buy a chain runner on the secondary market after this gets released? So since extension runners are always bound to the holder of the matching Genesis or XR runner, by buying a runner, you'll get control over the extension runner too if it's already been minted, and you'll be able to use this site to just transfer it to your wallet. And if it hasn't been minted yet, you can just go ahead and claim it like we did earlier in the demo. And as we've seen, using TableN for the metadata is really great since it enables these types of experiences with mutable data. But another really cool benefit is that it makes all data queryable off-chain using SQL. So I've added another page to the website that documents the table schemas that the project uses so that anyone can explore that, learn how to query them, and maybe even build on top of that data. I've also included some fun and interesting queries that can be run using this data. One example that I think will be really fun to see is which trait's the most common trait between claimed extension runners, for instance. So I've embedded that entire query, and it also runs and embeds the results into a table here. And while I've been testing, I've been minting a lot of skulls for myself, so we can see that the most common trait is skull red dot dice. Another fun thing that'll be fun to look at is what is the most common disabled trait. So same here, the query is embedded and we can see the results. And since this is a demo where I'm the only user using it, we can see that the two traits that I disabled earlier are shown up here. And that's it for the demo. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me in the TableN Discord. My handle there is DataDan. And thanks so much for watching.
So good. I love watching all those demos, and big thanks to all the teams for putting that together. And I'm really excited to see some of them going forward. If any of you have questions, I see that one was asked for MetaBadge, but he looks like he's offline now. So we can try to make sure that gets followed up with when he comes back online. If there are any other questions, happy to take those here in the voice chat, or you have them down in general. But otherwise, I think that's a wrap for Town Hall. And thank you all for coming today. Super excited to kick off pilot program 2. And I think that will be coming out tomorrow with the new link to the sign-up page with details on the new program. Quick alpha on that is that it will, I believe we already selected the date that it will kick off, which is like the last week of September. And so we'll have a whole new cohort of teams joining us and some new opportunities in the program. So if that's you, definitely let us know. And we'd love to do more of this work with new projects. So anyway, thank you all for your time today, and we'll get this posted on YouTube. So share it with folks that missed. Thanks. Bye-bye.